what is narcissism and what are some of the mechanics and dynamics around it?
As usual, the Greeks have said it all, and we are just kind of rehashing. First notice that in the Greek myth of Narcissus, who was a youth in Greece, who was condemned, he was cursed to fall in love with his own reflection. There was a goddess who cursed him to fall in love with his own reflection. First of all, it's a curse. It's not a blessing, it's a curse. It's a hindrance. It's a problem. It's an illness. There's no positive word that can be associated with narcissism. It is not, like many narcissists say, an evolutionary advantage, a positive adaptation. It is not, like many current scholars suggest, a high functioning adaptation to modern civilization and modern society. It's rather the other way around. Individual narcissists have created civilization and society in their own image, right, and rendered it equally dysfunctional, not the other way. So, of course, within a dysfunctional society, dysfunction pays. It paid to be a psychopath in Nazi Germany. Yes. It was an adaptive strategy, you know. So that's the first thing, the curse, the element of the curse. The second thing in the Greek myth, the guy falls in love with his own reflection. It's a very important distinction. He does not fall in love with himself. Narcissism is not self-love. Narcissism is the love of your own reflection via the medium and the agency of other people. And here's the problem. Because you want your reflection to be perfect and brilliant and omnipotent and omniscient and godlike and etc., etc., you force people, you coerce them, you threaten them, you blackmail them, you manipulate them into providing you with exactly this reflection. And when they deviate from this grandiose, perfect reflection of yourself, you punish them, you abuse them. There's no tolerance, there's zero tolerance in narcissism. The sources of narcissistic supply, the people surrounding the narcissist, must provide him with only one kind of reflection, which he dictates. It's like the famous joke, if I want your opinion, I'll give it to you. It's about the same thing. If I want my reflection, now here it is, you know. That's the second element in the myth. And the third element in the myth is the youth. Narcissism, pathological narcissism, is a reaction to early childhood abuse and trauma. Right. Now, there are many scholars nowadays who would dispute this. They would say it's not true. We can find, or we did find in clinical settings, many people diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder who had not gone through, who had not experienced childhood abuse. The problem is with the scholars, not with narcissism. It's like the famous joke with Albert Einstein, when they ask him, what happens if the light doesn't obey what you say, what's in your theory? He said, when the light has a problem. So it's the same here. The scholars have a problem. Scholars have a problem because they define abuse too narrowly. They take into account only classical forms of abuse, like physical abuse, sexual abuse, psychological and verbal abuse, etc. Now, these forms of abuse, of course, exist. They're egregious. They're horrible. They should be eradicated and countered and everything. All the slogans. But they are actually a tiny minority of the abuse experienced by children. Children much more often are subjected to the second type of abuse, which had been identified by Karen Horney in the 40s. And that is when the child is put on a pedestal, idolized, spoiled, pampered. And so the child's boundaries are breached. They are breached, and he is not allowed to separate from the parent. He is not allowed to individuate. He is forced to parentify. He is forced to actually act as the parent, to the parent.
How so?
So there's a lot of ambient incest and so on. So these are also forms of abuse. And many narcissists, most narcissists actually, go through this route. As children, they can do no wrong. As children, they're not disciplined. As children, they're not exposed to reality. As children, they are not able to evolve and grow and develop psychologically. And especially, they're not allowed to become autonomous, separate from the parent, individuals. Because the parent is in himself or herself immature and narcissistic, and she wants to merge and fuse with the child forever. She wants to render the child an extension of herself or an element or construct within her own psyche. So it's intergenerational immaturity propagated via abuse that masquerades as love and caring. That's the most pernicious form.
Yes.
Most pernicious form.